Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the CineMajors podcast. I am one of your hosts, Matthew Ha.
And I'm James Alchol.
And on this week's episode, or this week's movie, we're going to be talking about Her from writer-director Spike Jonze. And I don't know, we're finally out of, we're in July now, but we still can't go to movie theaters. But yeah, I guess we should go into movie news then, right before we talk about Her.
Yeah.
Our first piece of news is a few weeks ago, AMC announced that they were going to be reopening on July 15th, but as a result of movies like Tenet and Mulan being delayed, AMC has decided to delay their reopening as well. They will now be opening by July 30th. It's just getting pushed back more and more, it seems like.
This is true. I hope I get to see a movie by the end of the summer.
Yeah, we're pushing it at this rate because 10 is the first major blockbuster release post coronavirus, and it's coming out August 12th.
Yeah. It's just so strange that there was absolutely no blockbuster season.
Oh yeah, no, like we went through the entire month of June without really anything big.
No. Just the entire season from early May to, I guess kind of the end of August, so we'll be Tenet and Mulan are really the only two movies that we'll see, except, maybe Bill and Ted, if you count that.
Yeah, Bill and Ted, and I honestly don't know what else is coming out, and I think the New Mutants is coming out in August.
Oh,
that's
really?
It. Yeah, that's if it doesn't get delayed again, like it has like the past 5 times, I think.
Yeah, nothing new there.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if that movie gets delayed once again. I really won't.
I don't think we'll ever see that movie. I think it'll just keep getting delayed.
I don't know. Maybe they're hiding something.
Maybe
it's not good, because
maybe it's really good, and
because when a movie gets delayed this many times, usually when a movie gets delayed in general, not during this virus, but just prior, it usually wouldn't be a good sign. And the fact that this movie was supposed to come out in April 2018 and it's currently July 2020, that's a really bad sign, if you ask me.
Yeah. It's not going smoothly for the New Mutants. But personally, I'm excited to see it, just because I think this has been something we've been talking about just about ever. I mean, the story isn't even about New Mutants that we're talking about, but I mean, that's kind of been a bit of a running joke between us, because I think it's been coming out, like, it was supposed to come out, like, around the time where I met you.
Yeah.
Probably during my sophomore year of high school.
Yeah, I was a junior in high school at the time.
Yeah, and it still has not come out.
It got delayed till, like, February 2019, then August, and then to like April 2020. But then once April came along, obviously the pandemic occurred, and then it's just like, okay, indefinite, and now it's August 28th. Which as long as everything doesn't keep getting pushed back, I'm sure it'll get released by this point.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, that'll just be hilarious, because it's been delayed like 5 times now.
Yeah. Next story?
Yeah. So this is something kind of crazy. So this is along the lines of movie theaters and COVID. So the state of New Jersey has reopened a lot of large gathering places such as malls, museums, churches, and all that. But not for movie theaters. So as a result, on today, July 7th, 6 major movie theater chains, which include AMC, Cinemark, Marcus, Regal, filed a lawsuit against the state of New Jersey, and they're suing. These companies are suing the state of New Jersey over these COVID closures.
Mm.
I mean,
Well, yeah, definitely makes sense.
yeah,
Just considering how much money they're probably losing.
totally. And the lawsuit says that the theater. This is from a article from NBC. Quote, the theater chains take issue with Murphy's executive order allowing indoor religious gatherings limited to 100 people or 25% capacity, claiming this represents an unconstitutional and unlawful distinction. There is no rational basis for defendants' distinction between, for example, places of worship and movie theaters for purposes of reopening, yet defendants have allowed places of worship to reopen while movie theaters remain closed with no scheduled date for reopening, the lawsuit says.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally see that. I mean, I don't know if it's I don't know if a lawsuit is technically the best way to go through this, honestly, considering so many of these places have been closed already. But it's just, I don't know, you never see like a company or like major companies suing an entire US state. That's what's crazy to me.
It's very, very rare. Historical.
Yeah, I don't know if, to my knowledge, I don't know of any other examples of companies suing states. But I remember when I just heard about this, I'm like, that's wild.
It is wild.
And if we're being perfectly honest, like I think this decision to not open movie theaters is kind of silly, because I feel like even though it is a public space with a lot of people, it's probably one of the safer places
Definitely.
to open, because as long as you sit or like socially distance in your seat, you're not interacting with anyone aside from your tickets and if you get concessions. Whereas
Well, that is the. Well, I mean, like, yeah, that's one of the few places where you probably can actually, like, physically distance.
Right. Like if I'm
indoors.
If I'm being totally honest, I'm shocked that like theme parks have since reopened, but major movie theater chains haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And like water parks are opening too, which to me is the worst place you should be right now.
Even I work in a restaurant, and I think that's probably a lot more dangerous than a movie theater.
Yeah. I mean, you trust that employees are healthy and all that when preparing your food.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on to our next story. Walmart. Mm-hmm. Should we go with this one? Yeah.
Yeah, you want to introduce this one?
So Walmart is turning several of their parking lots into drive-in theaters. Yeah.
I think that's it's cool. It's kind of random though, honestly.
Definitely wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, but I'm kind of mixed about it for a few reasons. What do you think about this? Because it's just interesting.
To me, it seems like something that, like, somebody would suggest but never happens. Like, dude, let's turn the Walmart parking lot into a drive-in theater. Wouldn't that be so cool? And then, like, it just doesn't seem real, you know?
Yeah,
it's something that would last.
And but like, how would you have to like pay for it too? Like, do you have to go inside the Walmart to like pay for your ticket, or like your spot?
Can you just watch from across the street? Like, it seems very strange.
Well, like I think there's actually multiple reasons. Despite me thinking that this is a very unique idea, there's multiple issues I have with it. One is that this is the biggest problem. I feel like this will probably take away from regular drive-ins. Like,
absolutely.
Because drive-ins, while they're doing great now because of everything that's going on, they have not been I don't think they've been as successful as they used to back in the day. So
Right.
like we're big. We really champion like independent theaters and just like sort of first run theaters, and I think drive-ins, while I myself have never been to one, I think it's important to support that kind of thing just so that it could live on. And for a corporation like Walmart just to come in and be like, oh, we're gonna open drive-in theaters at our parking lots. Most people there's Walmarts everywhere. There's way more Walmarts than regular drive-ins. So obviously people are gonna go to Walmart to watch the drive-in movie.
Yeah.
So I think.
Stay away, Walmart.
And also, like drive-ins, they're usually in like they're kind of like in the middle of nowhere, and you need that because, like the darkness and also just noise and all that, and traffic jams too. Most Walmarts are in like plazas. Like the Walmart near where we live is not only a terrible, terrible parking lot. It's one of the worst parking lots.
I was imagining that.
It's one of the worst parking lots I've ever been in, but it's in the middle of like a strip mall. So how do you set up the screen? How do you turn off all the lights? How do you get the sound, to get into the cars? I guess you could use like a radio frequency, but also like if people are driving by and they'd be like, oh, what movie are they playing? Like that could cause an accident if they're not careful. So there's so many issues with this.
Even like some of the Walmarts that are in like quote unquote the middle of nowhere, like aren't really in the middle of nowhere,
Oh yeah.
Like there's usually like at least a McDonald's in the parking lot, or it's connected to like a Menards or something like that.
Yeah. I don't think there's a standalone Walmart store really.
Yeah.
It's not like IKEA where it's its own, plot of land, I guess. And now granted, this isn't happening to all the stores. It's only 160. So I don't know how many Walmarts there are in America, but I'm sure it's like a few thousand. Now, so it's not
Millions.
like there's not many of these, but at the same time it's just I think there's a lot of things that I wouldn't say they're like bad, but it could be problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And also another thing I just realized too, like aren't most Walmarts open 24 hours? Or like they close really late. So are they gonna close the store too? Because like you get people shopping, or like going to return something at like in the evening, and then how are they gonna get in? And also, in terms of people want to get to the drive-in early so they can get a good spot, then it's gonna be a massive traffic jam.
That's kind of funny to like think about. If like somebody's shopping for groceries and then the person next to them
they're playing like Endgame out in the on the screen. They walk out and then Captain America grabs the hammer.
And everybody starts clapping.
Or you just hear like a bunch of honking.
Oh.
I wonder what movies they'll play. That's what I'm curious. I'm sure they'd be family friendly if it's Walmart.
Artemis Fowl. No, I bet they'll probably play like
some like whatever kid movies are on, like the
probably
great
Scoob and Trolls.
the great classics like Beauty and the Beast and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Wonder Park and
oh no. Yeah, we rented Wonder Park from a Walmart.
Yeah, we got it at the Redbox. Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And we were so excited to see it.
I don't know why. We knew it was going to be bad. I think we were hoping it would be like so bad it's good, kind of like The Room, but then we were just like it was just so bad. It was genuinely bad.
Really bad.
There was nothing special about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I wonder if there's gonna be any Walmarts in Illinois that will do this. Because if there are, I might want to check it out. Out of
I would love to
curiosity.
go. That would be pretty cool.
Imagine if it was the one where we live. I don't think it
Then
will be because,
no way.
like I said, the parking lot is total trash. But I don't know. There's
Yeah.
there's a Walmart like there's a nicer Walmart like 20 minutes away from where we live. So
I could see
yeah,
it
it
being
could probably be
that
there.
one.
That parking lot's massive, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It has a better design too. And there's a Sam's Club like right next to it that's closed. So
Wonder if that would, if it would work that way. If they could do
I won't
a
be
Sam's
surprised
Club
if that's
parking lot.
one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That
yeah.
would be really convenient. Yeah.
Yep. And our final piece of movie news, well, news, I should say, this is the legendary film composer Ennio Morricone died yesterday on July 6th at the age of 91. Do you have anything to say about this?
Well, I mean, I was very sad to hear about it.
Yeah.
Um,
For those
I mean, I think he is not objectively, but I mean, widely, he's one of the greatest film composers of all time, if not the greatest.
yeah.
He's created some of the most iconic pieces of film music ever.
Did The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or I think he did the whole Dollars trilogy, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
And
Yes.
also Once Upon a Time in the West, Once Upon a Time in America, The Untouchables, Cinema Paradiso, Battle of
Eight.
Algiers. Which one?
Hateful Eight.
Oh yeah, I think that was his last score, if I'm not mistaken, and he won an Oscar for that
I
one.
believe it was, yeah.
Yeah, I really like the Hateful Eight score. It's so good.
Yeah. He's a master. He was a master. Will always be
Yeah.
one of the best.
Admittedly, most of the scores he's done are for movies I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
But almost everyone knows the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly score. To me, that's like one of the all-time classic scores, kind of like with like the Star Wars score and Indiana Jones. Because for me, even though like I haven't seen many of his movies, like his scores are just so like well known. You don't really have to see the
Right.
movies. It's like John Williams, because to me, John Williams and Ennio Morricone are on the same
Probably
level.
the best.
And yeah, because to me, in my opinion, I think John Williams is the greatest composer of all time. No disrespect to Ennio Morricone, because he was a
Mhm.
master, but like they're
But
on the
it's that
same.
like, yeah.
The scores they make are just so iconic that they really can't be beaten.
I haven't seen all of John Williams's scores probably,
Oh yeah,
but it's still that same thing. It's like, it's like music that even people who haven't seen the movies know,
yeah. Like if someone may have never seen Star Wars, but they know the Star Wars theme, or like
Yeah.
the Imperial March, for example.
Someone might go, wah, 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 and then
Mhm.
you'd be like, oh, you like the good, the bad, and the ugly? And they're like, what's that? And
Because also they've probably been like parodied in so many movies too. Like they've probably seen a
Right.
parody of it on like, I don't know, The Simpsons or in a commercial or something.
yeah. But
This is a little sort of off topic, but also kind of on topic. In regards to the Hateful Eight, did you know that I guess Apple originally they apparently pitched to Tarantino to release the Hateful Eight exclusively on iPhones?
really?
Yeah, that's so insulting when you think
That
about
kind of
it.
is.
Because he went out of his way to film it like on Ultra Panavision and all that.
That'd be pretty funny if that actually happens.
Apparently in the meeting, like when they pitched that, he just like walked out. He's just like, no, we're not doing that.
Wow.
Right, which I respect him for that, because like if I
respect him
made
for that as
that's
well.
like that's like if Apple were to go to Christopher Nolan and say, hey, can we make Dunkirk exclusive to Apple watches or something? or
Yeah.
if like, hey, let's put Tenet on, I don't know, a freaking
On
game.
the little on the MacBook Pro touch bar.
Yeah, or if God, like, I'm trying to think of a movie that, like, if I don't know, Nintendo went to Peter Jackson and say, hey, can we make the Lord of the Rings Return of the King a exclusive to the Game Boy Advance video uh cartridge or whatever those were. Those are terrible, by the way.
That'd be funny.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, rest in peace, Ennio Morricone. You were one of the greats, and he lived a long life, 91.
He did.
And it's not like he was retired either. He was still working. So.
Yeah. His work will live on forever.
Yep.
So
Alright.
I guess with that said, shall we move into her?
Yeah. Let's talk about her. So as I said earlier, Her was written and directed by Spike Jonze, who this was his first film that he wrote by himself, and he had previously directed films like Being John Malkovich and Adaptation. It stars Joaquin Phoenix, Scarlett Johansson, Amy Adams, Rooney Mara, and Olivia Wilde. And it's about a man named Theodore, played by Joaquin. And he is he makes a living writing letters for other people, and he is currently heartbroken and depressed as he's going through a divorce. So in order to, I guess, like, cope with that, he buys a OS system, and he falls in love with the OS program, whose name's Samantha. And it's more, basically the movie is a love story about a man who falls in love with a computer. That's the simplest way to put it. And as strange as it sounds, it is absolutely beautiful. What did you think?
I mean, I think it's it was really great. I did cry. It's definitely a movie that could have been really, really bad and cringy.
Oh yeah.
Like, based on the idea alone. I mean, it sounds I don't know, like, I guess this is something that could have been, like, really fake deep, or just kind of like I think, like, mixing technology with like, I think it's a science fiction movie, right?
Yeah, it's labeled as a sci-fi romantic drama, according to Wikipedia.
Right, so I feel like when you're mixing dramas, or mixing genres specifically with science fiction, it has to be done very carefully, and this movie does it perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think it does it perfectly balances the love story with the hypothetical, philosophical elements, like, questioning what's real, and like, putting forward the hypothetical, like, technology.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that you brought up that this is a movie that could so easily have not been good. And I think in the hands of most directors, this could have been just a really crappy, like, cringy romantic comedy, kind of like that one. There's this one movie that came out last year that no one saw, and thank God. It was called, like, Jexy, which is basically the same thing as this, but supposedly, like, horrendously awful. But in the hands of a great writer and director like Spike Jonze, it turns into this, like, really thought-provoking, and it's not only beautiful, but it's genuine, which is so... That's something I would never expect to say with a romance between a man and a program. Like
Yeah.
it's so weird to fathom. And I guess I should but before we talk about the movie, I want to talk about, you know, this story because I've told you this many times. When I first
Yeah.
saw the movie. So in high school, I took a philosophy and film course, and we were the unit we were studying was AI, and we watched Ex Machina, Robot and Frank, and Her. And Her was a movie that I'd heard about, and I heard it was supposed to be incredible. Spike Jonze, who I loved his work on at the time, the only one I'd seen was Where the Wild Things Are, which is also a great movie. And when
That
we
is one
start,
thing.
oh,
Well, go on.
no, you go first, or
Well, I guess we can talk about it after, but or more after.
okay.
I guess I kind of like totally interrupted your story. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool.
This is like it wasn't anyways, like I think I just wanted like to say that I think Spike Jonze was just the perfect choice for this because
Yeah.
of this reminds me of something that Charlie Kaufman would write. It had like kind of similar dialogue, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
And
this
Spike
was
Jonze has directed 3 of his movies.
yeah,
Adaptation being John Malkovich in Synecdoche, New York.
yeah. I think he was supposed to direct Synecdoche, but he was working on Where the Wild Things Are, like in
Oh,
pre-production, so he couldn't do that one. But yeah, this was his
I think
first one that he did on his own, like in terms of writing the script, which I think is
yeah,
it's impressive because it's a really, like, the script is one of the best aspects of the movie. But I guess we could go into that um, after what was I talking about? Oh
you're
yeah, the
talking
story.
about philosophy and film.
Yeah, philosophy. So also I guess we should say spoilers for this movie too. So we start the movie up, and like within the first 10 minutes there's our main character Theodore, since he's so lonely and depressed and just like eager for any sort of sexual intimacy. He calls like a phone sex hotline, and it's just like it's a hilarious scene. I find it so funny. Like
Yeah.
he's on the phone sex line, and then there's like a lot of moaning and stuff, and everyone in the class is just like, what the hell are we watching? It was so funny. And we spent like 3 days watching this in class because we only had like 50-minute class times, and it's like a 2-hour movie. So
Mm-hmm.
by the end of the week, nobody in the class enjoyed this movie, especially one of our friends really didn't like it. But I think
Yeah.
the only people that liked it were me and my teacher, because he obviously wanted to show it to us. And the more I thought about it, like at first when I saw it, I was like, wow, that was really good, but I didn't think it was my favorite of the class. But even like way after, like I finished the course throughout the summer, I still kept thinking about it, and I was just like, that was the best movie that I saw in that class. Not only just
Yeah.
for its philosophical themes and ideas, but just for telling such a, like I said, emotionally beautiful story,
Mm-hmm.
and with just great acting and a really great script too.
See, like I don't really. I just think it's so real. Like it's not
Yeah,
what I was when you told me that story, and you've told me that, I think you told me when that actually happened, like right after.
yeah, I think I
Um
did.
so I before I watched the movie, I was kind of expecting like something really slow and maybe like too dramatic, but what I got was something that, I mean, I think that um yeah, like I really love Spike Jonze's work because like it delivers like yeah, like a philosophically provoking story usually, and but it also does have humor most of the time. Most of his work is kind of like this, and it's well
Mm-hmm.
paced. And this movie in particular has a lot of humor.
Yeah, it's very
And I
funny,
think it
and
perfectly balances it. I found myself going from like being like mind blown and sad, melancholy, to like cracking up like audibly.
yeah, it's a roller coaster of emotions, not just what
Yeah,
how we feel, but also how the characters feel. Because there's especially with Theodore, Joaquin Phoenix's character, like there's so many. In the beginning of the movie, you could tell just like he's so depressed and lonely, and just is not
right.
incredibly antisocial, even with some of his friends like the Amy Adams character. Like you can just tell he's just like, I don't want to talk with you right now. But then as soon
Right.
as he meets Samantha, like she kind of livens him up, and we see this totally different person that we didn't see in the opening. But then also as he's going through the divorce with Catherine, Rooney Mara's character, you can see him kind of go back, but then kind of go back up again. So he's constantly going through these emotions, but we also feel that too, and that's why I think is really smart about it.
Yeah. I also really like how this movie isn't really. I was kind of expecting it to. Sorry about that. Um, but I was expecting this movie to kind of end up like coming around and being like like a bash technology fest, you know.
Oh yeah, like
But like,
technology bad, human good,
yeah, exactly, and
like Blade Runner or something.
yeah, but I don't think it quite did that, you know.
No, and it's interesting that you bring up the science fiction element, because in terms of a science fiction film, I think this is really unique in
Yeah,
that,
it really
especially in
is.
a lot of people can make the comparison to Blade Runner actually, in terms of being
Yeah,
sort of similar in terms of like stylistically the two are completely different, but in terms of just like technology and humans and like the advancements we've made. But what unlike Blade Runner, where it flat out says what year it is, and we see the political and just like environmental climate change. This one, we never. It's not explained. We don't know what year it is. We just know it's the future. We don't know
yeah,
why there's smog filling the air. We don't know how technology has really advanced since I guess the present time, which is us. But it seems it's very grounded, and it seems like this future could be just around the corner. Because there's no flying cars or anything. There's still regular cars. There's no hoverboards or anything. It's mostly just the technology that's changed, like the
yeah,
computers. And I think that's really refreshing. As much as I love really out there sci-fi and futuristic ideas, kind of like the Back to the Future 2 type future, I like the fact that this is something that seems more grounded in reality, despite being about the future.
yeah, absolutely. But I think it's a future that um isn't that I kind of like too. Like
Yeah, it seems like a really cool
it's a
place.
nice like meets you in the middle kind of future where it's not like a dystopia, but it's not. Yeah, like you said, it's not Back to the Future too.
To me, it's like a few steps below a utopia, because it's obviously not a perfect world, and we
Mm-hmm.
could, even though it never flat out says that, we could just infer that it's probably not perfect.
Right,
Like, so
but it's like it's cool to see that like people living just in the not too distant future, and people still talk kind of the same way they do, you know.
yeah,
There's still acoustic guitar and ukulele, so
people like dress
it's
the
not
same
like,
too.
yeah, you know. So it's not like a totally different world. Um, yeah. Another thing that I really did like, um, and I guess this kind of is another connection to specifically Blade Runner 2049, um, was the lighting and color in
Yeah,
this
the use of
movie.
color,
I
it's
thought
sort
this
of,
movie was incredibly beautiful.
yeah, like I love
The
the production design in this movie.
Yeah, the production design, everything visually about this movie, the cinematography
Yeah.
was simple, but incredibly effective.
It kind of looks like one of those like modern uh photos that you see of like Tokyo, Japan or something. Even though it takes place
Exactly,
in
yeah.
America, it had this very Japanese feel, and
Hmm.
I don't I don't really know why, but it's something about it just works so well. And
Well, it
even
reminded me of like a. Gone.
what was it?
Oh, well, it reminded me of. I follow this fashion brand, Uniqlo, and it kind of. They're a company that is based in Japan, I believe. And they. A lot of the clothes from this movie, or the costumes, kind of reminded me of. Like, it reminded me of one of their magazines
Yeah,
combined with maybe like IKEA, you know?
it does look like IKEA.
Yeah,
Is
which is something I really like about it, because IKEA always does kind of
it's
give
like
me like a slightly
minimalist
futuristic
and
vibe.
sort of
Yeah,
quasi futuristic. And that's the thing about the world too, is that this is a world that I want to live in, just
yeah,
because of how, how beautiful it looks. And even though I love the look of like Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049, I don't know if I'd want to live in that world, honestly, just
uh-huh.
because there's so many issues with it. But like this world, it not only feels believable, but you want to like fully live in this world and sort of just take it all in. And that's why I love some of the scenes when it shows them walking or just like doing something out, like when they go to the beach in that one scene.
Yeah,
Like it's just, there's something about it that it just sticks.
seems nice. Yeah. So why, when you talk to people in your class, why did they not like it?
Um, from what I recall, most people didn't like it just because they couldn't get around the concept because the concept is so strange. And I
Mm,
agree, it is a very
yeah,
strange concept. But if you get past that and you actually get invested in the story and the characters, deep down inside it's just a love story, and a really really good one too. And
yeah,
like it's not just like people in my class too, like I've talked to other people that said like, oh yeah, I wasn't a big fan of her, it was really weird, it made me uncomfortable. But I'm just like, and also I've just met people that say like, I didn't like her. Well, why didn't you like it? It was just bad. I'm like, okay, that's not a good critique. Like if you say it's bad, why didn't you like it? And I
fair.
feel for some reason with this movie, when I talk to people, they never really explain why they didn't like it other than just the concept is weird, and it felt like I was watching, or like some scenes were almost like softcore porn. But and which which kind of disappoints me because like there's such a good story beneath there. And yeah, people have their opinions, but if your opinion is just it's bad, then I'm sorry, I don't know if I could like accept that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know, why do you think some people might not like it other than the concept being just kind of out there?
Um, Probably I. It's hard for me to. Uh, I guess like It might be, yeah. Maybe it's too weirdly sexual, but it is a love story. So
But
I
I'd
think it's
argue that
probably it is a strange concept that's kind of I think it's ahead of its time.
I think it is too. Yeah.
Um, you know,
Actually, we should probably.
it's that question of uh like how do you know what's real? What counts as real? And um what's the difference between A and B?
Hmm.
What's the difference between a real relationship and with or a relationship with a human and a non-human who's still conscious, and how big of a difference does like a body make?
I think that's an interesting, in terms of the AI philosophy in this movie. That's probably the most thought provoking aspect, because even though Samantha is just a program, she doesn't have a body, but
Yeah.
I feel like she probably has the most humanity from almost all the characters, because the biggest scene that I can think of is when Theodore goes on the blind date with Olivia Wilde's character, who is actually just, she's credited as blind date. She doesn't even have a name.
Yeah.
So, and the scene plays out, and they're like, oh, they seem to have this connection. Then they get like drunk too, and then at the end they start making out, and then like they're like, oh, when am I gonna see you again? And then Theodore's just like hesitates just a little bit, and then Olivia Wilde's character just totally like does a 180, just like, I want to see you. You're a really creepy guy, just like leaves. It's
Yeah.
just like almost as if it's now. But even though there is sort of like this chemistry, you could sense just how awkward the scene plays out, despite the fact that it's like, oh, they kind of like each other. It seems like, but you
Yeah.
really just see deep down inside, just like, oh, I just kind of want to have someone to kiss and have sex and stuff. Whereas Samantha actually gets to know Theodore. They have real conversations. They actually learn more about one another and their
Yeah.
personality and their feelings, which is why when they end up having like technology sex, I guess, kind of like
Yeah.
a sex hotline. But to me, as even though it might seem overly sexual, it feels earned because the characters feel like they know each other. Whereas with the
Right.
Olivia Wilde character, it's just like one scene. It's just like, oh, let's eat and then let's go have sex. It seems like, so. In a
And
way,
that's
Olivia
another
Wilde's
thing that it
character,
talks about.
yeah, like I think Olivia
It's not
Wilde's
it's
character is more robotic than the Scarlett Johansson
exactly,
character,
yeah.
and not to say, and I think another interesting scene is when Theodore and Catherine, they're filing the divorce papers, and then
Mm-hmm.
she's like, oh, are you seeing anyone? And it's like, yeah, I'm dating an OS system, and then she's like, you're falling in love with your computer, and then he's like, she's not a computer, she actually has feelings and like understands that, almost as I'm sure, even though most of the scenes that we see with Catherine and Theodore are like in flashbacks, only showing like their like the happy moments that Theodore longs for again. There's probably, if we fill in the gaps, there's probably many times where it's like they don't really understand each other the same way Samantha does with Theodore.
Yeah.
So it's almost like questioning, even though AIs are just programs, do they really have humanity? Are they just as human as us and just don't have a body? So,
Right.
and it's
That
not
was my
like
favorite line in the movie.
your favorite one.
My favorite line, well, it's like going back to the flashback thing, is when Samantha says, "Isn't that funny how the past is just a story we tell ourselves?"
Hmm.
That was my favorite line.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of just like you have to move on somehow. And this is kind of what he moved on to.
It's also
But
interesting that in a scene where Samantha basically quote unquote hires a surrogate to simulate as if Samantha would actually have a body so they could, be intimate and like hug and kiss each other, even though it's Samantha's voice and POV. Honestly, it's almost like a Being John Malkovich scenario,
oh
which I
yeah,
just realized.
it is.
Like Theodore just cannot get around the fact that it's like it's a different person, even though Samantha is just inside a phone. And to me, that's such a
Right.
it's a really sad scene because it's like he can't even imagine Samantha as a human because he's just so in love with the fact that she's a program, and almost like just the voice is his only connection with her.
But also, like, I think, like, beyond the AI themes, it also kind of talks about, like, yeah, like, what love is versus lust, you know?
Yeah.
What is, like, a meaningful connection? How do you get that?
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, like, the thing is that I think why people find it maybe weird is, Theodore is someone who, like, talks a lot about, like, he seems like kind of creepy. He just watches porn all day and plays video games or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how people see him.
Yeah, I don't see him
And
as a sex like addict or anything, or just
but
kind of
the
like
thing is
a
like,
creepy dude. Even though his appearance says otherwise, he does look kind of creepy. But not gonna lie, with the
yeah,
mustache and the glasses. But he's just he's just looking for love, but not in like a lustful way. He wants something genuine. He just doesn't
that's the
want to
thing
like
is,
like, oh, I just want to be with anyone, any girl in the world. Just like it doesn't matter. Like he actually wants to find someone that would care for him and love him. And when he can't find any other human, he turns to the OS, which turns out to be someone that cares for him.
yeah. So I think naturally, like, people look down on that, even like the viewers,
Yeah.
because it's seen as weird and quote unquote not real, but he's sharing a connection with a consciousness. Mm-hmm. Is that not what love is?
There's two things that I find really interesting about that. Is that one, what I really appreciate is that, debatably aside from Catherine, everyone else accepts that. Like they don't look down on Theodore. Like when Theodore tells Amy, he's like, I'm dating an OS, and she's like, really? Like what is she like? Like she's really interested. Like she's not like, oh, you creep. It's just like they accept it and they don't see anything wrong with that, which I find kind of like the idea of the love story. It's refreshing because in any other movie this could have gone down like, oh, he's a weirdo, don't hang out with him, he
Right.
dates his phone. But in thinking about how this can affect us in the future, and this is something that my teacher pointed out, he says that like he can see people 20 years from now actually having relationships with their phones because we're so like connected with technology in a way, and even sort of like with online dating. Think about even with like something like Omegle or Tinder or or one of those sites, you're interacting with people that you've never met before and are essentially just images inside your computer. Yeah, you see them, but you don't see them in person, and depending on the situation, you'll probably never meet them in person. So it's almost like we're kind of in between like the AI and human relationship. It's kind of evolving, which is really interesting to think about.
I also really like in that scene that you mentioned with where he says that he's dating an OS and she's really interested.
And she's
but
happy
he
for
also
him.
says that But he also says that, like, dating an OS is statistically rare.
Yeah.
And that there's, like, people who try to get with their OS, but it doesn't work out, you know? It reinforces the fact that, like, this isn't just something that's set up to be perfect, you know? It's not like...
It's like a 1 in a million chance.
Yeah, but it's not like... like, going back to that, like, technology bad kind of thing. Like, I was expecting it to end up being, like... It turns out that Samantha was just programmed to be perfect for Theodore, and that everything is programmed perfectly, so it's not real, and that he can't actually handle being with a real person.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not how it is, you know? He really clicked with Samantha, and Samantha is a consciousness.
Yeah.
And it could have gone any way, you know? Like, life is random, it's not calculated, you can't really program that.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that incredibly refreshing for these kinds of movies.
Yeah, it's not only refreshing, but that's why not only I think, but a lot of critics and audience members that really love it can think that Her is one of the most genuine romance films, like, of all time, which I could totally agree, because, like, what I hate so much about romance films is that it's, like, picture perfect. It's like something you see on the back of a postcard or something. It's like, that's not how love works. Now, granted, I've never been in a relationship of any kind, but I know it's not perfect. Like, there's obviously going to be flaws. So that's why when a movie like Her comes around, it is not only refreshing, but it's real. It's real love, despite the fact that Joaquin Phoenix is in love with a program. If you get past that, it's probably the most real love story you could watch today. So
yeah, for me, this is right next to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah, like, probably next to Eternal Sunshine or Richard Linklater's The Before trilogy are probably my favorite stories about, like, romance.
Yeah. I think this is kind of one of those movies where, I mean, I would love to buy this on Blu-ray.
I found this on Blu-ray at Dollar Tree, of all places.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Just the same place where we bought Attila. I found
Attila?
Her. Yeah, it's same Dollar Tree.
That's nuts. That is absolutely nuts.
Like, oh, sweet, Her. I don't know, maybe it might be there still. So, if you want Her in your collection, it's there for $1.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it does. It deserves so much more than to be in Dollar Tree. It really does.
Yeah, that kind of like puts a new meaning to, like, let's hope this doesn't end up at the Dollar Tree or the $5 bucket, $1 bucket. I don't know.
The $5 the $5 bin at Walmart.
There. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, apparently the $1 bin at Dollar Tree is an honor now.
Yeah, it's honored to have one great movie amongst a pile of crappy movies.
Yeah.
But I guess one thing we should talk... we didn't really mention the performances in the movie.
No, but they're
all so good. Like, Joaquin Phoenix is one of my favorite actors, and this is one of his best performances. It's right up there with him in, like, The Master and Joker. And I think the real star is Scarlett Johansson in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think she does really great.
Really
great job of kind of...
And it's all just in the voice, too, which is so impressive. And that's why I appreciate, like, voice actors, too, because you have to emote and have, like all these... You have to basically act without really acting. It's just all in your voice. And the fact that we never see Samantha, too, just because she's a program, it makes it more impressive because she feels like a real person. not just in her emotions, but all through Scarlett Johansson's performance. So,
which I thought was nice. That I thought a way it could have ended was maybe she ends up getting a body, you know.
But that would have been, if that happened, it would have been sweet, but it would have just been kind of corny, though. And
right.
Should we talk about the ending real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, Samantha and all the other AIs are leaving, as in like this space that's sort of greater than the world that we live in. And Theodore learns that Samantha, is having conversations and quote unquote relationships with thousands of people, like all around the world, because she's an AI and is programmed to do stuff like that. Which obviously, because Theodore gets really, really disappointed, because at first he thinks that like, oh, it's just she's programmed to do this, it's perfect, like, and it's like this for everybody. But since Samantha constantly keeps coming back to Theodore, despite that, she says that only she loves him even more than like all the other users, I guess. And it's a really poignant ending too. And then Theodore also writes a letter to Catherine about, just apologizing for the relationship, but also saying that she'll always have a place in his heart. And it's like, it's a really sweet ending.
I really liked how he is a letter writer, and he writes letters for other people, but at the end he writes a letter like from like a genuine letter, you know.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you get a card in real life, and sometimes people don't even write stuff in the card, they just sign their name with the pre-written thing in it. But this time he actually
beautiful handwritten letters.com. And I think it's kind of like, I guess we're not talking about the ending anymore, but I think that's like, the fact that he works at a letter writing company is like perfectly in line with the slightly bizarre humor of this movie. There's so many things that like aren't necessarily jokes, but are just kind of funny and quirky.
There's a lot of quirky humor in it.
Yeah.
Not so much like a Wes Anderson type way.
Yeah.
But it's more just kind of like, I don't know, it's very lighthearted, is what I should say. Like, it doesn't really get dark, really, even in the really sad moments.
Yeah. Even like, I think of like the waiter asking if they need anything in the middle of the...
Oh, yeah. Do you think, my ex-husband's...
How's it going, folks?
My ex-husband's in love with his computer. Oh, if you'd understand, she's not just a computer, she actually has feelings. It's just like... I do remember when we watched that scene in the class, a lot of people laughed when they cut back to the waitress just standing there. So at least they found that funny. But...
that basically is my job, so I found that especially funny.
And I also really love the first... the two video game scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
The first one with
scenes are really funny.
With the alien, he's voiced by the director, Spike Jonze.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, follow me.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the words, but then also the other video game that Amy designs, the mom games. Like, you need to be the perfect mom. What happened? You gave them too much processed sugar and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like a game that you see on like Newgrounds or like cool math games.
Like, I think that's the mom game especially is pretty funny, because that basically is where a lot of games are going nowadays, it feels like.
Yeah, just sort of like simple
Goat
simulation.
Simulator,
or my favorite one. My favorite one's Sitting Simulator.
Oh yeah.
That's a great game. You guys should all play that if you're listening.
Even like I guess Animal Crossing is like from 2001, but it's becoming popular again. Even that's kind of like a simulator game.
Yeah. Well, even
And
like with the simulation in this, like the
with
simulation, kind of going with the theme of AI too. Like,
Yeah.
what if like that alien in the game is like it has its own like consciousness or feelings?
Yeah,
Kind of like
it's
what
cool that
Samantha
he actually
feels.
had a conversation.
Yeah. He's like, "Can you show me the way?" "No, F you." It's like, "Okay,
Right.
follow me." It's like, yeah, they're talking. Like you don't see, unless it's like Talking Tom or I don't know, like one of those text to speech games that you play online.
Right.
There's not many games that are like that. So, but it's kind of happening.
I also appreciate that they didn't like include like hyper violence in the video games scenes. Which I've never actually seen in a movie to my knowledge. Like I feel like, well, I guess like there's movies like about video games, but usually when when video games are portrayed like in movies,
Yeah.
it's that same kind of technology bad. Video games are super violent.
Video games are destroying the youth of America.
Yeah. But I think that like peaceful video game, this is like it kind of goes in line with the fact that I feel like this movie might be trying to say or like show that technology can oftentimes like help us rather than like it can show us the way and like teach us healthier habits.
Yeah.
Instead of like depressing us and destroying our lives as a lot of media says it does.
Well, it's kind of like what similar to how we said that this is probably just the story is just very genuine in terms of love and how it's coming from an AI. Like the AI program is one that's showing us the most human out of all the characters and shows the most like human emotions out of everyone.
Right.
What we probably should be following instead of just going with whoever, like just randomly dating someone just for the sake of having a spouse or like a boyfriend or girlfriend or something like that, but one that actually like cares about you and loves you. And
yeah, that's the thing, is you may find that connection in the most unlikely of places.
mm-hmm.
I also really like how he wears red. That's like,
oh, how he wears the red.
Yeah, it really made him pop out. I thought, I mean, just the color paletting in this movie is incredibly well done.
Yeah. It's like it looks very it looks very modern in a way. It doesn't really look futuristic, which also could be saying like this future's right around the corner, because they don't go out of their way to make it bright and flashy. Like what you said, it's kind of like the palette. It is colorful, but it's also like muted too, which is really interesting.
But like I never felt like depressed by this movie's color palette, nor did I feel like I just felt very kind of relaxed by it, and it made me comfortable. It made me feel more comfortable with the material, I guess. is what I'm trying to say. Whereas, you know, some movies like have too many dark colors. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Is there anything else you feel like you'd like to say?
Hey, I think I've said everything. You have any final thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, I guess we'll do the final thoughts and rating. So this movie is incredible. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it, and I thought it was genuinely good. I definitely see myself seeing it again as well.
Yeah.
Which, you know, there's some movies that you like, but probably won't see again for several years.
A one and done.
Yeah. I don't see this as being a one and done. I mean, I enjoyed it. I think the performances are great. I imagine I will refer to the colors of this movie probably for the rest of my life. I think the image of the future and the way the city looks is just great. I mean, we basically have been saying everything we liked about it for the last hour.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
Nice. I'm also going to give it a 10 out of 10. This is a movie that I really, really love. It's beautiful. It's genuine. It's, it has such a, like we said, such a great story. The performances are very strong. The script and music are excellent. It looks great. It's an all-around great movie. And if you can get past the fact that it's a romance between a human and a program, you'll be introduced to probably one of the most beautiful films you could see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Personally, I do not see anything wrong with it.
Yeah, I don't really have many complaints. I guess if I were to nitpick, like, there's some scenes that kind of drag a little longer than others, but other than that, like, there's really no problems with it. It was also one of my favorite films of the decade as well. It was up there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Easily in the top 5 for me. Maybe 10.
I think when I first made
think about it a little more.
When I first made my list, it was in the top. It was like, I don't even think it was in my top 30. It was like number 21, I think, but I hadn't seen it in a while. But now I've seen it again. It's probably a bit higher. So.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that wraps up this episode of CineMajors. Next time we're going to be talking about which movie again?
Lady Bird.
Lady Bird, that's right. Greta Gerwig's directorial debut.
Yeah.
And
2017.
yeah, that's all for this episode. And we'll see you guys next time.
See you then. Bye.
I'm